Our top story tonight, the land acquisition bill sails through the Lok Sabha. The government moves many amendments but refuses to bring back the consent clause and says social impact assessment will be the prerogative of state governments. The centre faces a daunting task to push the bill through the Rajya Sabha as the opposition stands firm.
The centre receives a jolt in the Rajya Sabha. Opposition parties join hands to send the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Bill to a select committee. The time frame and composition of the panel to be decided tomorrow.
In other headlines, 3 coal mines, one by Jindal Power, BS Ispat and Balco, in the auctions come under a cloud. Government sources say they may consider a re-auction of these mines to derive better value. A final decision is expected later this week. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive.
The spectrum auction enters the last leg. Telecom companies fight for 800 megahertz spectrum as bidding ends for the 900 megahertz spectrum band. The government is set to fetch over 1 lakh crore rupees from the telecom auction.
The current account deficit in October to December 2014 narrows to just over $8 billion. This is just 1.6% of GDP, but the rupee may continue to weaken due to the strength in the dollar.
The sell-off continues on Dalal Street, but a late recovery pairs some of those losses. The Nifty defends the 8,700 mark. The Sensex sheds over 130 points. Mid-caps remain resilient.
The chairman of the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission bats for more powers to the central bank governor and the Monetary Policy Committee, which is set to be formed. Justice Sri Krishna also welcomes the move to allow the Reserve Bank to target inflation.
Maruti Suzuki announces a recall of about 34,000 vehicles, Alto 800 and K10 manufactured between December 2014 and February 2015 recalled over faults in the right-hand door latch assembly.
That's what we afford the champion players. Wide, if that's in the air, there's a fielder coming underneath it. This might be it. And it is. Umesh Yadav picks it up. India beat Pakistan in this game.
'He's dragged it onto his cup. Oh, that's a good delivery. That's pace and that's bounce.
Oh, ball got it. Good catch. Will continue. And that just gone past slip. And those could be the winning runs. Not in the kind of
India versus Ireland.
Look at that. What a century for Shikhar Dhawan. His second in this Cricket World Cup.
Victory after 5 matches. Team India is flying high at the World Cup. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business House. So it will be a victory of sorts for the government in the Lok Sabha as well.
I don't know. I mean, I think the boys in blue are having a much better run than the government perhaps can through the parliament, because the Rajya Sabha is a real test, isn't it?
Absolutely. The land acquisition bill has sailed through the lower house, but that was a foregone conclusion. The Rajya Sabha is going to be the daunting challenge for the government, and it's almost certain that the bill will be rejected as the government lacks numbers in the Rajya Sabha. The government could not even get its major ally Shiv Sena on board. Shiv Sena MPs abstained from voting on the land bill, which is our top story tonight. But first, a quick check of the day's trading action. The sell-off continues on Dalal Street after sharp losses yesterday. The market's tumbling once again, but the bulls did put up a fight today. The Sensex staging a recovery of sorts in the last few minutes, managing to end the day with losses of 130 points. The Nifty defending 8,700. It fell below that in intraday trade. The mid-caps today showing some resilience, with the index managing to cling on to marginal gains. That was the story for our markets, with the continuing weakness in the stock markets also reflected in the currency. The rupee weakening to a 2-month low as dollar demand from FIIs remains strong. Better than expected US employment numbers also reinforcing expectations that the US Fed may hike rates earlier than expected. That added to the pressure, and also we had the dollar index hitting a fresh 11.5-year high, so the rupee today closing at a 2-month low. But straight to the big story story tonight. The Lok Sabha has passed a diluted version of the land acquisition bill. The government made 9 amendments to its bill, hoping to appease the opposition, but the centre refused to bring back the controversial consent clause. Now, as far as the social impact assessment is concerned, this was the second demand that was made across party lines, including the BJP's own allies, the Shiv Sena. Now, the government says the social impact assessment will be the prerogative of state government. So, state government can decide whether or not it wants to weave in social impact assessment into its land law. Now, this led to a furor in the Lok Sabha. Let's look at the amendments that have been moved by the government, 9 in all. Exemptions for social infrastructure projects in public-private partnership have been removed, which means that social infrastructure has been removed from that category. Land that will be acquired for industrial corridors will be limited to 1 kilometer on either side of highways and railway lines. This was again a demand that was being made by the opposition. And now this is a new insertion from the government side. Compulsory employment to 1 member of a farming family that's selling its land. This is now going to be provided as part of the land bill that's gone through the Lok Sabha. The centre will also put in place a hassle-free grievance redressal mechanism. But here are the highlights from that high-octane debate in the Lok Sabha. 53 amendments being moved by the opposition today, not one being accepted by the government. The government moving 9 amendments, and of course the bill has gone through.
This is going to take away it is going to boomerang.
इस बिल से आपने क्या क्या हम बताएं, पूरे ऑपोजिशन को एक साथ यूनाइट कर दिया है।
युवाओं के साथ जुड़ी हुई समस्या पे एक अंकुश डालना चाहते हैं तो बहुत जरूरी है उद्योगीकरण को बढ़ावा मिलना, बहुत जरूरी है उद्योगों का खुलना।
When it comes to social impact assessment, the finance minister says that this can be subsidized by a neighboring country.
पूरा जो अपोजिशन है ये भ्रमित है, ये देश का विकास नहीं चाहते।
About 7 lakh acre of land or hectare have been acquired in different states of our country. 65,000 acres of land have been acquired in Haryana. You cannot blow hot and cold in the same breath. That is what I am saying. कोई भी acquisition इसलिए नहीं होगी कि हम किसी प्राइवेट आदमी को दे रहे हैं। सारी जितनी भी एक्विजिशन है वो सरकारी तौर पे है, सरकार का उससे ताल्लुक है। कैसे प्रोजेक्ट है जिनको आप ये संभव हो ही नहीं सकता कि 5 साल में उसको खत्म करने की कोई बात हो, तो हो सकता है उसमें 7 साल लगे, 10 साल लगे। ऐसा प्रावधान हमने किया है और जिसमें लेंथ ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट 5 साल है उसको रखा है ताकि वो जमीन उसको वापस हो जाए। वी हैव मेड दिस प्रोविजन दैट ऑल दी 13 एक्ट्स which were not included in the Act of 2013, they would be included, and fair amount of compensation, that means 4 times, and rehabilitation, resettlement, all these clauses would be applicable to all these 13.
Well, that was the high-octane debate in Parliament, but the real test for the land bill awaits in the Rajya Sabha. CNBC TV 18's Rituparna Bhuyan spoke with the Rural Development Minister Birendra Singh right after the land bill was passed by the lower house to talk about the government's strategy to get the bill ratified by the upper house. Listen in.
This is an anti-farmer bill because the opposition walked out saying that this is an anti-farmer bill.
The last item of the opposition is always to walk out.
Right.
When they don't have the majority.
Right.
Or then they could not impress upon the rest of the members that this bill is anti-farmer.
Right.
So naturally they would come out of the house.
So while you have the numbers in Lok Sabha, how do you think in Rajya Sabha you'll be able to take this bill forward? Is there possibility of a joint session going forward if Rajya Sabha?
I hope that we would manage that the bill in the Rajya Sabha would also be through.
Now, the opposition has reacted quite furiously to the land bill being passed by the Lok Sabha. The Congress has called it a black day for democracy. Trinamool and others are also equally vociferous in their responses. But the government is hailing the passage of the bill as a historic one.
Which is a death knell to the farmers and particularly to rural India as much as it's to the whole of India. We strongly oppose the provisions in this bill. and we continue to oppose this.
लैंड एक्विजिशन से संबंधित बिल आज यह सदन में पारित हुआ है। उसमें किसानों के हितों पर पूरी तरह से ध्यान इस सरकार ने दिया है और मैं आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं देश के किसानों को भी कि उनके हितों को कम से कम हमारी सरकार किसी भी सूरत में चोट नहीं पहुंचने देगी।
बड़ी बहुमत के साथ जो विधेयक में संशोधन थे, जो किसानों के हित में विधेयक में जो संशोधन सरकार द्वारा लाए गए थे, उसे बहुमत के साथ स्वीकार किया गया। कुछ राजनीतिक विषय हैं जिसकी पहचान बनाने के लिए कुछ राजनीतिक पार्टियां उसमें अपना पहचान बनाना चाह रही हैं। मुझे लगता है ये विफल प्रयास है।
हमारा काम डेवलपमेंट का है, हमारा काम इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का है, लेकिन हम किसी भी हालत में किसान का हित जो है उसको हम इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते हैं और उसके लिए जो उन्होंने किया है उसके बाद अब विरोध करने का कोई हमको लगता है कोई नहीं है।
कॉम्पेंसेशन इतना मिल रहा है कि जिसके कारण किसानों को काफी अच्छा कॉम्पेंसेशन मिलेगा और उसके कारण किसानों के हित में बहुत अच्छी बात हुई है और ये एक ऐतिहासिक बिल पास हुआ है। ये देश के विकास को और गांव गरीब मजदूर किसान के प्रगति विकास को गति देगा।
Well, reactions are coming in. The government, of course, claiming victory, but the opposition stands united. Now, the land bill may have been cleared by the Lok Sabha, but the real test awaits the government in the Rajya Sabha. The government was forced on the back foot today in the upper house over the Mines and Minerals Regulation and Development Act. The opposition today questioned the government's urgency to move an ordinance. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley defended the ordinance, saying the move will delay payment to states. But the Speaker has allowed a discussion followed by a vote on whether the MMDR bill should be sent to a select committee. The government lost the vote and the bill will now be sent to a parliamentary panel. The time frame and composition of the committee will be decided tomorrow. Well, that's a big blow for the government there in the Rajya Sabha, and that's likely to be the opposition strategy with regards to other bills, including the land bill as well. Let's go across now and listen in to some of the reactions.
ये एक ट्रांसपेरेंट प्रोसीजर सरकार ला रही है। कोई भी सरकार चाहे कि हम डिस्क्रिशनरी तरीके से एक कमेटी बना दे, कमेटी दे, फर्स्ट कम फर्स्ट सर्व में भी और स्क्रीनिंग कमेटी में भी डिस्क्रिप्शन चलती रही आज तक। उसको समाप्त करके सरकार कह रही है मैं तय नहीं करूंगी, नीलामी से तय होगा और उसके बाद जितना साधन आएगा। और तीसरा असर मैं आपको बता दूं इसका जो होगा, अगर ये ऑर्डिनेंस लैप्स करता है तो ये 32 माइंस की ऑक्शन लैप्स नहीं करेगी। दैट इज एक्शन विच हैज ऑलरेडी बीन अंडरटेकन अंडर दिस ऑर्डिनेंस। दोज माइंस विल गो ऑन, लेकिन जो 7 राज्यों को पैसा मिलना है वो इस ऑर्डिनेंस के तहत है।
We want to make some constructive suggestions. The first one, sir, is the extension of the area of mining, and the second one, sir, is to do with clause, I'm on the bill, on clause 18 and 20, and on clause 18 and 20, where this government has made a lot of statements about cooperative federalism. In all this, please take the state governments into confidence. Please work it out in such a way where the state government will not be harassed, will not be run over. If this can be assured by the government, we have no issues on that point on going along with this bill.
We do not support all the clauses of the bills. We have our reservations, and we want to protect the interest of the state, mineral-bearing state, mineral-list states. We want to discuss the matter, give some suggestions how the interest of the state can be protected.
There are many positive aspects in the bill, be it relating to hassle-free long lease period, or it be auction of mines and mineral blocks, we generate additional revenue to the states and center, or setting up of district mineral.
Joining us now for a reaction on what the Congress party strategy is likely to be in the Rajya Sabha is the spokesperson of the Congress, R.S. Surjewala. Mr. Surjewala, appreciate you joining us here. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion because of the majority that the government enjoys in the Lok Sabha, and the bill has now gone through or sailed through the Lok Sabha. Not a single amendment that was moved by the opposition party is being accepted by the government in the Lok Sabha. What is the strategy now going to be for the Congress party along with other opposition parties in the Rajya Sabha?
Shireen, let me begin by saying that tyranny of majority and a specific pro-corporate agenda of Mr. Modi does not take away the fact that the sole spirit and structure of the right to fair compensation, the Land Acquisition Act 2013, has been killed by the government. And they will have to pay very heavily for abdicating the interest of the farming community, contrary to their own promise and total support to the 2013 bill in the parliament when they were in opposition.
Well, the government will say that it's going to be the tyranny of majority in the Rajya Sabha that they will have to face, Mr. Surjewala. But without going into the politics, if I can ask you, would the Congress have supported the land bill had the government yielded on the issue of consent and on the issue of social impact assessment? Because on the issue of social impact assessment, the Rural Development Affairs Minister seems to now suggest that while they haven't moved an amendment, they will leave it to state governments to adopt the SIA or not adopt the SIA. If the government had yielded on both these issues, would you have supported this bill, sir?
The moot point is very simple. There was complete political unanimity, including by the BJP. All suggestions made by Mr. Jaitley and Ms. Sushma Swaraj as leader of opposition were accepted while passing the 2013 Act. The 2013 Act has not as yet been implemented. Why amend it? Also, it's not about social impact assessment alone. It's also by examination of social impact assessment by independent experts, acceptance or rejection of their report, application of mind by the government under Section 8 need for land, minimum requirement for land, utilization of earlier acquired land, inclusion of that land in the notification that is being made. So all these facets and acquisition of multi-cropped land have been totally ignored only to benefit a few. What would happen to millions and millions of farmers? Being pro-farmer is not anti-development, but Prime Minister seems to be personally adamant, despite opposition, massive opposition inside BJP, to bulldozing this bill over the interest of the entire farming community.
All right, sir, the bill going through the Lok Sabha is now a done deal. What can we expect in the Rajya Sabha? Can we expect the Congress party to adopt the same strategy with the land bill, as you seem to have done today with the MMDR, which is to try and get the Rajya Sabha to send the bill to a select panel? What is the strategy going to be in the Rajya Sabha? Because if it doesn't get cleared by the Rajya Sabha, then I would imagine the government will be forced to re-promulgate the ordinance which expires or lapses on the 5th of April.
Well, the Congress strategy is very simple, and strategy is to continue to stand by the farming community of the country and continue to stand by our principled stance on the 2013 bill being the most appropriate pro-farmer and pro-industry and pro-growth bill. Any amendment to the same is unacceptable, and we shall continue to stand by that.
Will you allow any of the other bills to go through the Rajya Sabha, Mr. Surjewala? I gave you the example of the MMDR, where you're now saying it should be sent to a select panel. Insurance, is there any hope of any legislation going through in the Rajya Sabha?
Let me say this, Shireen. There is no per se opposition to any good measure that government may bring. So we will deal with each piece of legislation and view it on the touchstone of how it affects people of India and how it affects their interest. And if we feel anything is anti-people, anti-farmer, then Congress party will take an appropriate stance on legislation to legislation.
But if I can ask you a final question, Mr. Surjewala, and this has been the argument of the government in Parliament as well, that there were several Congress chief ministers or former chief ministers, including the former chief minister of Maharashtra, including the former commerce minister Anand Sharma, who did raise concerns and apprehensions about the land bill in its avatar, in its 2013 avatar. Would you not accept that your own party had misgivings as far as this land bill was concerned, sir?
I'm very happy that you asked this question. 2013 Act was not produced out of hat by the Congress party. It remained under discussion for 2.5 years. Each state government, including BJP state governments, were asked for their opinion. Complete political consensus was arrived at with the entire BJP leadership, which has now by dint of sheer political opportunism brought out the ordinance. They accepted the bill. What changed in 6 months to bring out a new ordinance other than a personal adamance on account of a promise made to certain vested corporates by the Prime Minister himself, and I'm levelling this allegation with all seriousness and responsibility.
All right, I was Shireen in conversation with Mr. Surjewala, Congress spokesperson, who is vehemently defending, of course, his party's stance, saying that they will take a call on every single individual legislation as it makes its way through Parliament. Let's move on to some other stories that we're tracking tonight then. A second round of coal auctions have drawn to a close, and the government has managed to rake in big bucks. The government has auctioned 31 mines so far, 18 in the first phase and 13 in the second. The total amount it has garnered stands at just over 2 lakh crore rupees. But a cloud hangs now over 3 coal blocks won by Jindal Power, Balco and BS Ispat. These were sent for a re-examination, and now government sources say the centre could consider a re-auction. Anshu Sharma is here with all the details. Anshu, what does the report say, and when will the government take a decision?
The report submitted by the nominated authority says that all rules and regulations were followed, and the bids which came in for these 3 particular coal blocks were handled transparently by the website. It also, but the sources in the government say that the government is mulling to re-auction these 3 coal blocks, as government sources suggest that the government has powers to re-auction already bid out coal mines without casting any aspersion on the winners of these 3 coal blocks. Government is yet to decide whether these 3 coal blocks will be re-auctioned, but this is still at a decision stage, and by the end of this week, government will be taking a decision whether these 3 coal blocks will be auctioned or not. These 3 coal blocks include Jindal Power's Gare Palma 4x2 and 3, which was bid out at lowest 108 rupees per ton, and Maki Bangli 3, which was won by BS Ispat at 918 rupees per ton, which is lowest for the unregulated sector. And the third coal block is Balco's Gare Palma 4x1, which was at 1585 rupees per ton. So a final decision on this will be taken by the end of this week. Back to you.
All right, Anshu, appreciate you joining us there with those details. It will be bad news for companies like JSPL and, of course, Balco if the government does decide to re-auction. But as Anshu was pointing out, a decision will be taken at the end of the week. Now, the spectrum auction is in its last leg. Bidding for the 900 megahertz band has already closed. There is some bidding activity on for the 800 megahertz band, which is considered good for providing data services. Sources say that Bharti Airtel, Idea and Reliance Jio are eyeing spectrum in that band. The government has received about 94,000 crore rupees worth of bids till last evening. We're still awaiting data from the government for what the auction bids stand at today, but we are given to understand that bids will cross about 1 lakh crore rupees. That is the estimation at this point in time.
All right, on to the big macro picture of the day. Then the balance of payments for the third quarter came in largely in line with expectations. The current account deficit for the third quarter stood at $8.2 billion. That's 1.6% of GDP. Now, this was significantly better than expectations of about $10 to $12 billion of deficit. Lata Venkatesh is now here to take us through the fine print. Lata.
Yes, this is such an in-line with expectation number that I'm not able to sensationalize it even if I tried. Yes, the current account deficit has come at 8.2 billion, which is lower than the 10 billion in the previous quarter, that is the June-September quarter, and a little higher than the year-ago quarter. But the year ago is an unfair comparison because year ago, that is FY14, the December quarter was just after the run on the rupee, and we had severely curbed gold imports. Industry in India as well was crippled, so the imports were very measly, and that's why you had a very low current account deficit. So as a percentage of GDP, it is 1.6% in the quarter under review. That is the October-December quarter, which is very, very healthy. A little lower than the 2.1% in the June-September quarter. Maybe a little higher than the year-ago quarter, but like I said, the year-ago quarter is an unfair comparison. What were the key highlights? It was the trade deficit was actually higher, which is a bit of a surprise because you would think that on October, November, December, crude prices had crashed and had continuously been crashing. Nevertheless, the trade deficit was high. That's because our exports fell. And therefore, and the lower crude prices didn't reflect in that quarter because we had already purchased forward in the previous quarter, and therefore we had high cost inventory. The real advantage of low prices will be seen in the current quarter when we may post actually a current account surplus because of a very small trade deficit. The other highlights of the October-December quarter is that the current account deficit was lessened because our software exports did slightly better. Indians who lived abroad, bring in money called private transfers. That also was a tad better than previous quarters. And most importantly, the interest payments we make on loans also fell a little, which is why the current account deficit is slightly lower than in the previous quarter. Now let's come to the capital account. In the capital account, FDI flows and foreign portfolio flows were a little lower than the previous quarter. The best performance there was actually debt FII flows. And the other one that did very well in the capital flows was banking capital, which looks more like a one-off. A lot of foreign accounts coming in because of probably a slight fall in the rupee in December, but that looks like a one-off. All told, the current account deficit was about $8.5 billion. The capital account was a surplus of 23 billion. So from 23, if you take away the deficit current account, you have a BOP surplus about 13 billion. That's the story.
Well, it's been an interesting day. The Lok Sabha has passed the land bill. The markets continue to trend lower and the rupee is at a 2-month low. We'll pick up on all the action and more. And of course, what happens now to the land bill and other bills which are in the Rajya Sabha. Remember, the Rajya Sabha has already decided to send the MMDR bill to a select panel now. That is a blow to the government. But all of that and more on CNBC TV 18 when we resume action tomorrow. From all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.